today. You guys are here for our feature presenter. His name is Quentin Allums, also known as Q. He's the CEO of Urban Misfit Ventures, a fast-growing startup out of Milwaukee that works with brands to tell compelling stories, drive traffic, and increase influence. He was named Wisconsin's 25 under 25 list, has generated over 10 million LinkedIn views, spoken at events such as VidCon, the world's largest video conference, and has a TEDx talk coming up. Today he's here to share his knowledge with you to monetize your personal brand and build real influence. Please give a warm Dream Bank welcome to Q.
The clicker works. How's everybody doing? I'm just gonna let you know now, I'm notorious for just like getting on stage and talking for like 5 minutes and then just completely opening it up. So I actually have a presentation today and I'm excited about it because it's like the first one ever. But that being said, like I want to keep it open, super candid. So if you have any questions for me, if you want to yell at me or anything like that, just feel free to stop me. Same with the live stream, but there is going to be a Q&A at the end as well. So I want to tell you a story. So 2017, that is me, if that is not evident. 2018, that is me as well. So the guy, 2017, I had just started my first company, virtual reality startup, working in the education space. And around the same time, I started my first agency as well. Crazy struggling. I got to the point where I had like negative $900 in my bank account, like was making no money, had no clients at all, but I was telling stories. And I was shooting these videos, but no personal brand, no nothing. 2018, that is me. And now I have my first TEDx coming up. I own one of the fastest growing startups in Milwaukee. Essentially just a bit of a background about my company. Urban Misfit Ventures, we're a parent company. We own a content agency, so we work with brands. Hey, can you help us tell our story? Can you help us drive traffic? Can you help us build influence? And then we also own MK Misfits, which is an events company. We host parties. So basically I tell stories and I host parties for a living. That is me. But how I did that and why I'm able to land these TEDx and influencer deals, and my company has grown so fast because I built influence. So for my podcast, Strange on Purpose, I just interviewed Brittany Crystal, who has worked with people like Marie Forleo and Tom Bilyeu and Gary Vaynerchuk. She's just a total badass. And her definition of influence is trust, right? Like you have to have trust to be able to have that influence. And for me, literally like, I think the actual definition is you're inspiring people to take action. And that's a big thing that I've hung up on, but you need that influence to be able to bring in dollars, to be able to bring in money. Without that, you're not gonna be able to convince anybody to do anything, and no one's gonna believe in you, no one's gonna support you if they don't trust you. And one thing that Brittany said, she's like, people don't take the time to get to know themselves, right? People don't know who they are. And you have to know you first, and that just starts with questions. Right? So for me, when I was just getting started, it's like, okay, who am I? What do I actually believe? What's my opinion on this? Okay, I love technology. What do I actually think about that? And I would just ask myself all these questions and then post this content and build my voice there, but I had to get to know me first. If you don't know you, then no one else is gonna, like you're not gonna be able to communicate that. You have to know where you're going, you have to know who you are. So I built my entire brand, my entire identity around the fact that I'm a misfit. I've just always been weird. I've always been quirky. I think literally at one point, we were just driving here from Milwaukee, and he's like, "Isn't it crazy how like this is the norm now? Like we drive and we go speak, but like 2-3 years ago, like you're that loser that was in your dorm room just like playing guitar and wouldn't talk to anybody." Like I've always been weird. I've always been quirky, and that is a thing that I use to connect. I remember I was in a room much like this, end of 2017. And I was listening to a guy named Josh Fetcher speak. And if you know Josh Fetcher, he revolutionized what's happening on LinkedIn right now. And I walk up to him after his speech, I'm like, dude, like I love everything that you're doing right now. Like you're incredible and I want to do something similar. And the first thing he told me was unfollow. And I did, but he wasn't saying like unfollow me because blah, 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 blah. He was saying like I need to find my own lane. I need to find what makes me unique. I need to find what makes me different. There's already a Josh Fetcher, but there wasn't a Quentin Allums. So I leaned into what made me unique, and I literally just tell stories. And I share about branding and LinkedIn, and that's my lane, and I own that. There's already a Josh Fetcher. So one thing that one thing that I struggled with a lot initially is like, okay, I don't want to lock myself in. I don't want to be just that LinkedIn guy. I don't want to be just that personal branding guy. I don't want to be just that social media or tech guy. I don't want to niche down. And what I found is like, okay, if I draw a circle, right? I'm sorry, I'm super weird, but if I draw a circle, and let's say it's LinkedIn, right? It's just one, I'm sorry. I draw a circle and I love technology. I love LinkedIn. I love esports. I love fashion. Those arrows in that direction, the trajectory that I go is only going to go like a couple inches, right? If I draw another circle and it's only LinkedIn and I'm just focused on LinkedIn, I'm going to go so much further. And then when I'm out there and I'm 2 meters out versus 2 inches out, that's when you can branch out and do different things. So if you're familiar with Sean Cannell, he's a big YouTuber. He got his launch, or he got his start basically in the faith realm, but helping faith organizations grow on YouTube. He launched his book, and now he's doing all these different things. He's got his company, he's got his agency, but it started because he niched down, like crazy niche down. Like literally no one else was doing faith-based YouTube growth, and that's all he focused on. That's what his book was. And then he branched out. And then he did these different things. So don't be afraid to niche down. And I think it's going to be super beneficial because it's easier to stand out. He was able to niche down, and if you do have that niche, you're gonna have a further trajectory. So when it comes to like actually like making money, whether that's speaking engagements or influencer deals, or you're trying to grow your company, whatever that is, one thing that's helped us, again, is that niche, right? So for me, like all I talk about is branding, storytelling, marketing, and sometimes technology, and that's pretty much it. Izzy, who's the guy taking pictures back there, who deserves a round of applause because he's not actually a photographer, but he's a beast. He actually gets the most influencer deals out of all of us. And then a lot of people think that you have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers to actually monetize your brand, which isn't the case. He's got, I think, like 2,000 followers on Instagram right now, and he gets the most influencer deals out of all of us. He's got 8,000 on LinkedIn, and most of them come through Instagram, but it's because he niched down, right? He's a sneakerhead. He's a thrifter. He's got a foodie page, and that's super specific. So when brands reach out to him, they're like, okay, this is what you do. I know how you can help me. Okay, let's do it. Of course, like he can sell himself, but he's super niche. Eric, who's our chief content officer, big gamer, big into esports. I don't think he touches anything outside of that and like cameras and technology, but he's super niche. Brahma, he's one of the top Milwaukee Instagrammers. Photography, creative. And Google's reached out, Momentum's reached out, all these different brands because they want photos, and then all of these different technology things because they want him to promote their stuff. But having that niche and having that thing that you focus on is going to help you get those deals, whether that's speaking or for your company or straight influencer deals. And then everybody in my company also, including my dog, has a personal brand. They have that niche as well. So everybody that comes in, we're getting all this data, and then we're figuring out what works, and we put everybody that joins our team. We have a team of 9 now. A couple have left, and we're about to be a team of 11, but everybody that comes on, we turn them into an influencer on at least one platform as well. But we focus on that niche and what makes that person unique. So when it comes to the story, so just a bit of background on me. Like I said, like negative $900 in my bank account, like massively struggling. My company wasn't doing anything, and I knew that at the time I was a 22-year-old black kid that no one was going to listen to talk about Snapchat or talk about marketing or anything like that. And I wanted to stand out, and I wanted to prove that I could do the things that I was saying that I could do for people. So I focused on telling my story. And usually when I say tell your story, a lot of people go to like, hey, yeah, I had negative $900 in my bank account and now I'm here, and that's one story. When I say tell your story, I mean like what's your overarching narrative? So if you think of, I'm a big like Avengers fan. Did anyone see the new trailer, by the way? Okay, so I literally cried at that trailer, like I'm not kidding, like no joke, like I cried, but the reason I cried is because they've done such a good job at the overarching narrative. They've done such a good job at telling Iron Man's story and Thor's story and Captain Marvel's story and connecting these things. And it's one overarching story. Like, shoot, Thanos is coming, right? Like, Like that's the narrative. You know what's happening. You know the threat. You know where they're going. And it's the same thing with a personal brand. Like for me, like I don't want anybody to have to go through the things that I went through building my first company or my second company. I don't want anybody to struggle with building their personal brand. I don't want anybody to think there's this special sauce that you have to have and you have to follow these rules because it's different for everybody. That's my mission. Where I'm going, it's a crazy story and I don't want to talk about the future, but I communicate that in my content. I communicate that in my brand, and that's what you have to do. Whether you're a company, whether you're a personal brand, if people don't know where you're going, they can't follow you, right? So what is your story? Where are you going? What's your why? What's important to you? Communicate that, and communicate it all the time. And also, my company's name is Urban Misfit Ventures. I would say has anyone read Donald Miller's Story Brand? Building Story Brand? Okay, amazing, amazing book. I recommend you read it, but essentially a large reason my company has taken off as fast as it has. We're going to hit 7 figures annual recurring revenue in the first 18 months. The reason it's moved that fast is because our story is not about us, right? It's not about Quentin. It's not about Izzy. It's not about Kylie or Charlotte or any of our people. It is. We're part of it, but we're misfits. And we're doing it because none of us come from anywhere, right? And we want to help other people get to whatever their end goal is. We want to be a platform for those people and amplify their voices. They see themselves in our story. If you can do that, you win. Whether that's a company or a personal brand, if the people you're targeting, if they're the hero in your story, you're going to win. And I think a lot of people, I was actually watching a video a couple weeks ago, and he was like, hey, I built a community on LinkedIn, so now I'm going to go focus on YouTube. Built a community on LinkedIn, so now I'm going to go focus on Facebook, right? Like, I think a lot of people confuse communities with followings. They have 100,000 followers, so damn, I need to be paid $100,000, and that is not the case. Again, going back to Brittany Hoffman, one of my favorite quotes from her is she said, I'd rather have an extra zero on my bank account than on my follower count, because it's completely different, right? Like Izzy gets the most influencer deals out of all of us because he has a community, and he has that niche, and people understand the value. And without my community, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be standing here. I wouldn't have my TEDx coming up. My company would not grow at all because you're the reason I'm here. You're 1,000% the reason that I'm here. And without that, I wouldn't be here. So right now we have the House of Misfits community, which is about 800 people. LinkedIn Innovators Group, which is just people that want to grow through video. But we're giving back to all these people. And then in turn, like when I fly out to New York City, hey, you're in the airport, I'm going to pick you up. Or hey, you're really, really good at this. I'd like to introduce you. And it's vice versa, right? We're all benefiting one another. I always go back to, again, I was a big gamer, so I used to like launch these businesses in video games. Don't want to talk about it. Businesses in video games, and if you look at like a community in video games, the most successful ones that I built, there was like 3 or 4 different tiers, right? You had the leader, and then underneath that you had like the people that would specialize in something. So really, really good at X, really good at Y, really good at Z. They really believed in that leader though. And then the people that came in underneath them, maybe they're not as good at something, but they really believed in those specialty people that would help them. And then they really believed in that leader. And then everybody that came on the outside, they saw that ecosystem, but the thing is, like, everybody was benefiting, everybody felt like they were bringing value as well and getting value. And that's what you have to do with that community. They need to feel like they're bringing value and getting value, because again, if they can see themselves in their story, then you're going to be effective. And I think this is a huge one. I see a lot of people that are like, hey, you're creating these videos, that's awesome. It got 100,000 views, I'm gonna create videos. Then they get 100,000 views, but it doesn't turn into business. Or, hey, I'm gonna write this blog because I see Gary Vaynerchuk writing this blog. Or I see Gary Vee repurposing, so I'm gonna do it. But they don't have that clarity. And one, it goes back to like knowing who you are. You have to know who you are, because if you're trying to be someone else, it's just not gonna work. But also, what are you selling? And maybe that's just you. Like maybe I'm just selling me, right? I want to go speak or something. Or hey, I want you to believe in me. Or hey, I'd love it if you join my community. Just get clear on what that thing is that you're selling, what those things are. So if you don't have that, you're not going to make any money. And then again, what makes you unique and what's your why? But also, one thing I don't talk about a lot is I decline most influencer deals. I decline, even with our company, we say no to a lot of people because it has to feel right. And going back to that trust point, if your community doesn't trust you, you have nothing. You have nothing. You can't be an influencer without a community. You can't be an influencer without people that follow you. So if you're taking deals, like if I'm a big Pinterest fan, if I take a deal with a company that's competing against Pinterest, terrible example. If I decide to wrap a brand that I don't believe in, or a brand that is low quality, and then I sell that and I tell my following, like, yo, I love this, they're not gonna trust me, and you're gonna lose that trust. So I only rep and I only push out things that I believe in. I only accept things that I believe in, because you have to have that trust to be able to build influence. And it's a long-term play. Like, another book I would recommend is, I'm blanking on the name, but I think it's How I Built a Million Followers in 30 Days by Kane. Incredible read, but he talks about Taylor Swift in that book. And I was a musician as well, so I resonate with this, but Taylor would spend like 18-hour days just meeting with fans and meeting with people and collaborating and talking to people, and they would share her message for her, because she genuinely cared about those people. And it goes back again, clarity, do you know who you are? Trust, are you building trust with the people? Like, having that community. And I think a lot of people just get stuck on the fact, hey, I want to make money now, I want to do this now, but where are you going? What's your why? Get super clear on that stuff, because that's when the money comes in. Don't focus on short-term play. Don't focus on building other people's brands. Focus on building yours first, and then the big brands come. That's when you're going to make real impact, and that's when you're going to make real money. Do you have any questions? This is where I thrive. This is where I'm good. I hate presentations.
I have a question for you. The AJ Sue, Middleton coach.
Yeah, you're in Madison, and I never knew you. I see your videos all the time, man.
You're just like, we're almost like brothers from another.
Also, if you have any questions live stream, I will answer.
So, my question has to do with the authenticity in terms of how you maybe emotionally feel it versus how you capture it and structure it to do what you're doing. You honor yourself sort of at this emotional level, but you're at the same time trying to find the win-win, so it's authentic emotion and smart business practical.
Yep.
How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think again, like it's an interesting question, but it goes back to clarity, I think, in my opinion, and really knowing yourself. I recently launched a Patreon. If you don't know what that is, go look it up, because it's amazing. But basically, people will subscribe to me and pay me money monthly to support me and allow me to create and do what I want to do. I initially had this crazy strategy. Like, I'm really strategic. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna send out these messages, then I'm gonna do this. And it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right at all, because I know me, I know my brand, I have that clarity, and I know what I want to achieve. So I shot a video and I said, look, I just deleted a video that I spent editing for 3 hours because it didn't feel right, but this is what I need. If you've ever found any value in anything that I've done, I would appreciate it. And that's it. That's all I did. And people started donating, man, and that's freaking incredible. But it goes back to that clarity and knowing who I am. I'm not sure if that...
It does.
Yeah?
Like, if you know yourself, you'll honor yourself, and you just have
Yeah.
to hold that.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Let's go with that. Someone should quote that.
Thank you.
You had a question back there?
The first book you recommended.
I think it's Building a Story Brand. Is that the correct title? Yeah. By Donald Miller. Really good book.
Hi. So my question is, how do you reach that point of finding what your niche is? You know, how do you find that clarity, like any insight or
Can
any
you ask me again?
experiences?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Huh?
How do you reach the... I didn't
How
hear
do
you.
you reach that point of defining what your niche is, or your clarity, like what kind of self-exploration? Because it seems so easy for you to define yourself as a misfit, but for those of us who maybe are struggling at what that identity is, to then find that special area to focus on.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible question. Also something I don't talk about that I probably should, but my intern, former intern Charlotte, asked me the same thing. She's like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what I should look like, blah, 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 all these questions. She felt that because she was a student, she didn't have value. And when I started, I had no niche. But even with my company, I had no niche. I was a full stack agency at first, when I first started my first agency. I moved into, okay, I'm just gonna do real estate. Okay, I'm just gonna do content marketing. I'm just gonna work with investors. I'm gonna do personal branding. I did all these things, but I was just niching down for the sake of niching down. But also what that taught me is, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this, I really suck at this, okay, I'm good at this, maybe I should go in this, okay, I'm gonna lean into this. I would say make that a part of your story. Like I'm trying to figure out what makes me unique. I'm trying to figure out what I should niche down, but don't niche down for the sake of niching down. But maybe, again, I'm super weird. You draw like 3 circles, like what are you good at? What's the commonalities between those things, right? Maybe that's your niche. I would start there. Someone told me to do that, but don't force yourself into something. Make sure you like it, make sure you dig in. You can always pivot. Because I've pivoted more than probably anyone alive, and I'm only 25, so. Does that answer that?
All right, this is a question from the online audience, from Tracy. My story is that I'm a recovering addict and I have come from addiction to ambition. So my why is to inspire people with poetry, community events, working out, etc. Which one should I start with if I also want to be a speaker?
She said addiction, poetry, and
Community events.
I would say they're all, Tracy?
Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy, I would say they're all connected. For me, like, I think it's under branding, but storytelling, technology, like fashion, there's all these different things, but it's under Misfit, right? I would say they're all connected. It's all you. I would start with all those things because you can build a community around those things. It's just a matter of starting and making sure that you're actually getting people together. Does that answer that? Could you read it again? I want to make sure I get that because I can't see your face.
I'm a recovering addict and I have come from addiction to ambition. So my why is to inspire people with poetry, community events, working out, etc. Which one should I start with?
Yeah, I would say either pick one that you really, really love and go for it, but I would say they're all connected. And don't be afraid to be more than one thing. I would say niche down, but again, draw those 3 circles and then what's the commonality between that? Maybe it's, hey, I want to bring this small community together of this type of people at this type of event and bring them in, but find those commonalities in there. But I would just say your sweet spot it's in that zone, in between those different things. I hope that answers that. If not, shoot me a message.
So how do you strike the balance between the personal brand and talking about yourself and actually creating and promoting the work? Like, where does that balance lie between it, especially when, say, your job is to tell other people's stories? How much do you talk about yourself? Like, where's that balance?
It's a really, really good question. Initially, again, I didn't think that I was important, and I didn't think people would listen to me, so I did focus on telling other people's stories, but I was here and there. I was like, oh, yeah, I resonate with that. I also went through that. Or, hey, yeah, and I would throw in my story, but what I learned is, again, they are connected. I would say it depends what type of work are you doing?
So I'm a freelance visual journalist, so photo, video.
Okay. And you're saying, how do I know when to tell my story versus how do I know when to promote the work?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like the work isn't about me, and I think for a lot of other people, it's like the work they create is about their clients.
Yep.
So, like, where is that balance between talking about yourself and talking about your own work and creating and showing your own work?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, again, that. And Donald Miller, do they see themselves in your story? I don't think people really care about, hey, we just worked with the Admirals, here's this cool video. No one gives a shit, man. Like, no one actually cares about that. But hey, this is what led up to that. This is how I got that client. And here's the work. That's a story and you believe in it. So I would say mix them. I would say here and there, yeah, but more people are going to care about you. It depends how you portray it. I think your company or whatever you're doing should have a story as well. And maybe you have 2 different pages, 2 different brands, which I do recommend, but focus on you because my first company died. My second company died. My third one, regardless of what happened, it's going to die at some point. Right? But I'll always take my personal brand with me. I'll always take my story. So you do need to focus on you. You do need to focus on sharing your own story. What that balance is, I don't think there's a special sauce. And anyone that tells you that, they're lying. You have to find that for you and just see what works. I literally test everything. So I have, here's this topic, here's this topic, here's this topic, here's this video. Okay, reach this many people shared. And focus, see what people are sharing. And I think that's the metric you should be tracking in terms of like what's actually working. Don't look at views, don't look at likes, and like comments, yeah, but sharing. Because if you can get people to share your message for you, you're gonna win. But I think that the actual like balance, that's up to you and you have to figure out that. For me, it's a lot about my story and what's happening within my company, because I know a lot of people are also going through that. And then here and there, here's this cool video we did, but that's probably like 5%.
All right, this is another question from Beatrice online. I'm an inspirational speaker trying to increase my presence on social media. I post original, inspirational posts that get a lot of positive feedback. I'm struggling how to increase my reach.
Beatrice? So I recorded about 500 videos before anyone paid attention, before anyone really noticed. Maybe like 20 views here, 30 views here, 10 views, and most of those were from myself, just checking to see if people were watching. I think there are things that you can do, but I would say don't get discouraged. And what I often remind myself is, one, some of me is better than none of me, but also if you look at those video views, if you look at those metrics, imagine 10 likes doesn't look like a lot, but imagine 10 people in a room. That's a lot of people. And that's a lot of people that you can impact. And if one of those people is Oprah, damn, it's going to explode, right? Like, don't focus on the metrics. I think there are things that you can do. And again, I think that's going back to testing everything, seeing what messages people are actually sharing, because if you can get them to share them for you, you're going to win. Like, you're going to go viral every single time if you can get that down to a science. But I would say don't expect people to follow you. Don't expect people to like your stuff, because it is hard and it does take work and it's different for everybody, but figure out what is going to work for you. And there are different things that you can do, but you got to test it. Just don't expect it, and remember that the people you're reaching are actual people, which I'm sure you understand, and I'm sure you get those messages, but just don't let the numbers discourage you. Because again, followers and views don't equal dollars.
Quick question about the analytics. What do you look at when it comes to LinkedIn? So now you start getting into this mode of producing content, looking at shares. Just curious what types of analytics you pay attention to make sure that as you're testing stuff out, that you're trending in the right direction, and then you can also translate that to your client work as well.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, metrics are terrible. So I'm literally just tracking what people are saying in specific messages, which is terrible. I don't recommend it, but you'll get an understanding of like what people feel about certain topics, and then I test the amount of shares and what people are saying with those shares on LinkedIn. On Instagram, we're running a bunch of ads, we're doing a bunch of stuff, but I'm testing everything from location. Essentially, we've got it down to we can get about conversion with a cent on Instagram story ads right now. I think Brema, who was the one over here, the biggest Instagrammer, he was growing by 1,000 with like $5 a day. In terms of specific metrics and personal brand growth, I would say make sure that you own whatever you're creating, own the community that you're creating. So get emails, get phone numbers, get a group or something like that where you can actually communicate with these people, because platforms change so much. In terms of actual analytics, I'm tracking the conversations and in LinkedIn anyway, the conversations and the shares mostly. I don't really care about the views or anything like that. I've actually stopped tracking. I know that was a terrible way to answer your question, but.
Who's your mentor?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't have just one. I'm a big Jason Silva fan. He's raising his head back there. Yeah, Izzy's my mentor. Yeah, same age. Actually, okay. If I didn't meet him in college, one, we were college roommates, so we started this business together with two others. But he was one of the first people that pushed me out of my comfort zone, because I was always that weird dude that was just playing music and not talking to people. So Izzy would be up there, but Jason Silva, I'm a huge fan of. Basically, he's a philosopher who takes these complex ideas about the future and is able to communicate it to like children. Incredible dude, and a lot of my content style has come from him. He's super into flow, and he's just incredible. I would say Brittany Crystal, who's again worked with Marie Forleo and Gary Vaynerchuk. I remember the second speech I ever did, I was in LA, and I hate planning things, so I didn't plan it, but I was supposed to plan it. And I go up there and it was terrible. But she comes, at least I thought it was terrible, and she comes up to me and she's like, "That was awesome. Like, you're really good, you got something special." But she's supported me constantly, and she's helped me a lot, and I'm learning so much just from watching her. So I would say Brittany, Izzy can be up there, Jason Silva, and then Sophia Amoroso, who's originally founded Nasty Gal. I think now she's in Girl Boss, but really good at being vulnerable and communicating with her people. But there's a lot. I love people.
All right, this one is from Jen online. She loves StoryBrand. Great recommendation. Do you have any advice for introverts who know their niche, want to jump in, but struggle with putting themselves out there, even if they believe in the power of their message?
Yeah, I would say you're doing a disservice if you don't share your message. You're doing that person, those brands, those companies a disservice if you don't share your message. And if you're not, if you know you're going to bring someone value and you're not sharing that with them, you're doing them a disservice. Again, I was super quiet. I didn't like to talk to people. I am an extrovert. I didn't realize that, but I was super quiet and I didn't like to talk to people. But I understood that if I can impact people, I should be. And I need to be, because I can actually change someone's business, I can change someone's life, and if I'm not doing that, I'm doing them a disservice. So I would say focus on other people, don't focus on your fear, because the more you do it, the easier it's going to get to overcome that. I literally puked the first time I spoke on stage. I didn't puke on stage, I puked before, but puked, second one was bad, third one was bad, fourth one was bad, fifth one was bad. I don't even consider this good. I like talking and I like people and I like impact, and it's not about me, it's not about my feelings, it's not about my fear, it's about that impact. So focus on other people.
We got one back here for you.
And also, like, lean into your strengths. Introverts pay attention and they listen a lot. Extroverts talk a lot. If you're good at listening, like, use that. Use that, sorry.
Do you utilize an app to distribute your message and or videos across different platforms?
I personally do not. I'm a fan of native. I like to post everything native. I post everything myself, but I do see the value in it if you don't have time. I know Izzy uses like Buffer for Instagram, Twitter, and other platforms. I personally don't like to, just because I like my hands on everything. But I do have a team as well that can help me redistribute and tweak and edit things for me as well. So I would recommend it if you don't have time, but personally I don't.
All right, this is another question from Matt online. I found many people in the influencing and social media realm at the base or core are marketing businesses. What are your thoughts or feelings about this?
I mean, influencers are marketing businesses?
At their core, that they're a marketing business.
Oh, are a marketing business. I would say it depends where you look. I would say, I mean, yeah, like influencer, it's influencer marketing, right? Like it's a branch of marketing. I would say yes, but I would say the best influencers have just turned themselves into a business. So they're not a marketing business, they are a business. Gary Vaynerchuk is a business, right? Like what he's done with K-Swiss and literally just launched cereal and comics and all these different things. He's a business versus your average influencer, hey, I'll promote your product. They're focusing on building other people's brands before they're focusing on theirs. So I would say a lot of influencers are over there, but I would say the best ones and where everybody should aim to be is focusing on building their brand, focusing on building that brand equity, and then maybe partnering here and there. But I would agree that most are a marketing business. I hope that answers that.
So this is from a realtor in the area. What is the best way to build a brand? I've been sharing content and have some listings, but I'd still like to know how to build my brand in a better way.
I would say there is no best way to do anything, but again, it goes back to, okay, story, clarity, community, and all those things that I outlined that I totally should know off the top of my head. But that clarity is huge. Do you know yourself, your why, and do the people see, like, your story? It's not about you, right? It's not, I'm a realtor, okay, let's work together. I'm gonna help you get here. They need to see themselves in your story. I would say there is no best way, but you do need to be creating content. You do need to be out there because there's so much coming technology-wise. And if you don't have that story, you will become irrelevant. So you need to be focusing on putting out content and connecting with people and then just test to see what's working. Putting up a few listings isn't gonna be enough. You have to create. People have to feel connected to you, and you have to build that community and have that clarity and have that trust. And if you have that, then hey, okay, you're this, I know you're really good at this, I'm gonna go to you every single time. So build that trust, create content is a good way to do that. Hey, you're so awesome. I appreciate all of you.
You created so many videos and a 21-day challenge and stuff. How do you decide on what to create? Like what's...
It's a good question. So when it comes to what like topics and what I could and what I should create. I think everybody is different. For some of our clients, we do some personal branding work as well. Like we will literally have ideation sessions and we'll talk to this person, just have conversations, okay? Like, again, back to Brittany Hoffman, like ask questions, whether that's yourself or other people. Okay, what was your day like? Okay, what happened today? Okay, you're married, how'd that go? Like all these different, just ask questions. I could literally come up with like 1,000 different topics for you probably within like 2 days. Maybe not 1,000, but a lot of different topics just off the questions that I ask. So get to know yourself, ask those questions. For me specifically, I track, again, the messages that people are asking. So comments, messages, DMs, things like that, questions that I get on a recurring basis, things like that. But I would say just start with asking yourself questions. Like, what do I actually think about this? What are people talking? Okay, what do I think about that? Okay, what did I go through today? Should I share that? Could other people resonate with that? And if you can find what people want to share and what people are actively engaging with, that's when you're going to win. But questions. I ask everything. Like, I'm a pest.
All right, this is another question from online. And for those of you online, this is being recorded. So in a couple of weeks, you will be able to watch the playback as well. But this question, for those of us that are working for someone else currently, I'm working on my employer branding in the HR realm, but would like to take that and spin it off into a consulting entity. How do you go about doing that when all you have is the results from your employer to work with?
Yeah. So all I had when I started was the results for myself. It's just all about how you sell it. I would say literally pick up the phone and start calling. I think it's a lost art. I hate it. Absolutely hate cold calling, but you're going to get your teeth kicked in. You're going to learn a lot. So just pick up the phone and start calling. But you do have a case study, and that's what you've done with your employer, unless they haven't given you permission to use it. So maybe talk to them. But you do have that case study, and you do know what you're doing. And again, you would be doing people a disservice if you're not bringing value and if you're not putting yourself out there. So just pick up the phone and start calling, start typing, sending out those messages, and do it a lot until you figure out what works. And then you'll have that case study. And after you close your first deal, it's so much easier. And it gets easier and easier and easier.
Great presentation today. Question, what's the most essential skill that you look for when bringing someone on to the team?
I would say it's not a skill, but grit. One, are they a good culture fit? But grit, are they able to learn? Because again, like, I get a lot of messages, hey, your videos are amazing. How did you learn how to do videos? But I started editing, like actually editing videos maybe a year ago. My team's amazing, like I can do it, but I don't really touch it anymore. I would say grit. Are they able to look at a problem and fix it? Are they able to see that problem and fix it? So just grit and being able to evolve and change because there's a lot coming. Is that like for IG or something? Okay.
So with content creation and paralysis by analysis, you're a very strategic person. Talk to us about overcoming perfectionism that some people may have about putting out content and making sure it's perfect.
Yeah, so I used to be a 3D designer. If you took designer A and designer B, let's say A, hey dude, like I want you to create one masterpiece in VR in 3D, or like one master virtual reality piece within 30 days. You take B, hey dude, like I want you to create something every single day for 30 days. That dude's gonna kill that dude. You're gonna crush him every single time because he's learning and he's evolving and he's testing new things and running into new challenges. So I would say just push yourself. So something I did, because I was also a perfectionist, I told everybody, like, this is gonna suck. I don't have my phone on me, but I'm gonna record this. Okay, here's my video diary every single day. It was terrible, dude, absolutely terrible. But people still message me today, hey, I feel like I just binge your life on a Netflix show. Or like a Netflix show. I would say just remind yourself that some of you is better than none of you, always. But you're gonna improve at such a fast rate if you actually just put things out. And most times, like, I'm probably messed up like 20 times up here. Maybe you notice, maybe you didn't, I don't know. But like videos, like I mess up all the time too. People don't notice, people don't care, because it's about that impact in that message. So what you think is perfect, people aren't even gonna notice. They're not gonna know the difference between perfect and semi, like subpar, whatever. Like just focus on that message and improving. I know that's not an actionable step that you can take, so maybe it is shooting a video diary every single day. That helped me a lot. I would not be on the stage if I didn't do that. And you can host it on YouTube, you can host it on Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere, LinkedIn, just doing something every day, enforcing yourself and building that habit to just remind yourself some is better than none.
All right, this is from Donna Online. I've been told to get my writing out there. How do you do a blog, or is there a site that describes it best? Where else can you get your writing out to people?
Yeah, so I'm actually a writer before anything, which is why I was so uncomfortable on stage and so uncomfortable in front of the camera at first. What's really, really cool now is people read my writing, which I tried for a very long time to get people to read my writing, and no one gave a crap. And now they read it, but it's because I built a brand, and I built trust, I built a community, and I create videos. So I would say even as a writer, I would say a good place to start is video, because you're able to connect, and I'm able to see things that I can't see or I'm not able to, that you can't communicate in writing, and see things and see your emotions and feel your energy, and then drive that traffic to writing, to your writing. I would say LinkedIn blogs, LinkedIn articles are a really, really good place to do it. I know Medium works well, but also again, going back, like if you can own it, that's where you're gonna be best. So your own website would be best, because you own that, and social media platforms always change.
So I'm semi-comfortable doing what I do in my video space. And in the last 3 months, I've been doing the one a day concept, sort of like 21 challenge, getting it out there and doing more, right? And so the question is between speed and perfection, to bridge off that last question, I don't really hyper edit things. I use clips, and there's typos in there because I mumble. And I let them flow, right? Because I feel like I just want to put it out. The question is there a sort of an upper limit of that? As long as I'm being true to who I am and sort of not coming off as unable to do my craft,
Yeah.
do you have a sense of how perfect is not perfect enough? Or how?
What are your goals? Where do you want to be in like 5 years or a year? Like, what do you want to do with this, with content?
So I'm not quite in the space where I want to be an influencer. I want to like go do these influencing deals. I want to help people at my core. So like my why.
So an influencer, inspiring people to take action, trust.
But so I guess yes. But what's funny is like my biggest thrill is like when someone says that one made me feel good.
Yeah.
It's not the big numbers. It's like the ones.
Yeah.
And I'll take that all day long. I know I'm building awareness plan, top of mind kind of things, and I know my imperfection, my mumbliness is authentic. As a business coach, I just want to be out there helping a few more people, sort of bite by bite.
Yeah.
And I know it's driving business already. Even in the last years, I've done a little bit of this work because people know me better. They know who I am for the flaws and warts, right? So that the embrace of warts versus the pursuit of perfection, how do you think about the line between the two? Is there one?
I think it depends on your goals, and it depends on who you are. For that specifically, I would say for you, it doesn't matter, because look at Will Smith, right? Like he has videos that are shot on a not crappy, but on an iPhone, right? Like no DSLR, like no high quality Sony camera, like nothing, it's just an iPhone. There's no like we still all have our favorite oldie movies, right? Like it's all, so long as the audio is good, you're fine. I would say with your goals and you want to impact one by one by one by one, it doesn't matter. Me, I want to leave a legacy, and I want large scale because I know I can impact people because that's where I'm best, right? If that's what you want to do, then it doesn't matter. But even like at my level, I could still just use my iPhone so long as I'm good at it. And if your community is resonating with that, then it doesn't matter. So just pay attention. Maybe at some point you hire somebody to help you. Maybe at some point you learn those things, but just pay attention and keep asking yourself those questions. I also do this a lot. I just found out. I have no idea what this means. So.
All right, this is another question from Tracy online. Should I invest in a certain video recording device and graphic design, or should I just buy my own camera?
Invest in video device and graphic design.
I think a program.
Oh, okay. I would say the best camera that you have is the one that you have. So start there, because it's easier to build a habit when you just are going with what you have. I would say don't waste money, because you're going to learn a lot if you actually like it. In terms of programs, there's a lot of free software out there. In terms of graphic design, like you can use Canva. Video editing, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but if you have Apple, iMovie, I know old school Windows Movie Maker, there's a bunch out there that are just for free in terms of video editing. I also know people edit off their phone, so I would just say start with a camera you have, which is more than likely a phone, which is totally fine. And then look into free software. Get the basics, learn, hit that cap, and then if you like it and you're ready, either hire it, outsource, or just learn it yourself.
So, hey Q, Megan, thank you for coming to Madison. I think we all really appreciated it. The one thing that you have spoken about today, and you've also spoken about continuously, is the fact that you are a misfit. And I feel like us graphic designers and marketers, right, we all feel that same way. You go to a conference and it's kind of like the awkward junior high dance where you want to talk to somebody, but you don't really know how. And I am that person, and I kind of shine with being an extrovert and talking to anybody.
Yeah.
But what would you say was the tipping off point for you that you realized I met the challenge of being that kid playing music in a dorm room to I'm now going to make that leap and be a success?
Yeah, I would say one of the most impactful moments for me was the moment that people started watching. My first video hit 30,000 views, and I know that sounds egotistical, but that's not the reason. The reason that was so impactful for me is because I was the same person the day after and the same person before. Before people started watching, I would say that was it. And it's like, okay, if people are gonna watch me, listen to someone who couldn't talk to a single soul 2 years ago, listen to someone who stumbled over his words in the first 200 videos, then damn, if I can do this, anybody can. And I would say that's the most impactful moment for me, which is why I'm so adamant about pushing things out now, because my company is growing fast. We're not the most amazing startup, but we're growing really fast. And if I can do that, if we can do that, anybody can. So I would say day before, day after, same person.
All right, this is a question from Chris online. I want to start a personal development blog for people struggling with certain aspects of life, but my brain struggles to engage in something if I can't see a definite payoff. Personal branding and making money on the internet seems really nebulous to me, like I could spend years at it and never actually make money. Because of that, I haven't been able to get myself started. Any advice for someone in that position?
I would say artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, Internet of Things, big technology terms that no one understands yet that have the impact to change the world. One of those things have the impact to change the world. All of those things together are going to just completely disrupt everything, and there's another revolution coming. If you don't tell your story, if you don't put yourself out there, whether you see the payoff or not, if you don't have a personal brand, which you do have one now, but if you don't have one, if you don't invest in that, a machine's going to replace you, 1,000%. So regardless of if you see that payoff, whether it's making you money now, again, I say no to most influencer deals, but whether it's making you money now, doesn't matter. Having a personal brand makes you more attractive in a room. It makes people send you referrals. Again, it builds that trust and community, and people are gonna flock towards you. So maybe it's not an immediate payoff, but not having it, it's gonna be very, very hard to stand out in the future. So I would push you heavily to invest in your personal brand, because there's a lot coming that people just don't realize yet. I hope that answers. I know that's not an actionable step. In terms of actionable step, just, again, maybe focus on that fear. Focus on that technology that has potential to replace you. But without it, it's going to be very hard to stand out in the future. I hope that helps. Send me a message. We'll chat.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Okay, so you talked about having 3 different companies. So what was your first move when you made as a newly branded misfit? And then also, how much content did you put out right away? Did you put a bunch? Did you plan it out? How was that process?
Yeah. You said one more time for the first part of the question.
What was the first thing you did once you branded as a misfit?
Yeah. First thing I did when I branded myself as a misfit was a lot earlier than when I started Urban Misfit Ventures. First thing I did, I started collaborating with everybody. I got this hat. It was a $40 hat, probably the best purchase of my life, because it spoke to that, right? It spoke to that misfit overarching narrative, that story arc. So I got this hat and I just started collaborating with everybody. I appeared in Dallas and New York City and LA. I was everywhere. And again, people were sharing my message for me. I would say that's the easiest way to get exposure, just start collaborating. And then, sorry, what was the second part?
How much content did you put out right away and planned out?
Yeah, so right away I was posting every single day. It was predominantly video, but only because people were saying, why are you doing video? And again, I'm a misfit, and I wanted to stand out. And video was has already taken off everywhere else. So I'm like, I'm going to focus on this, but I was every day. And then I slowed down, and now I'm back up to basically every day on, for the most part, all platforms, but every day. Because it's easier to build the habit that way. It's a lot easier to post every day than it is every other day, in all honesty, just because of that habit.
Any other questions? Got a couple minutes left.
If memory serves correct, you posted something about strategy for YouTube, that you are going to be going into YouTube, and I'm just on a personal level curious about that, and give us a little bit of background and what you're going to be digging into on YouTube.
Yeah, so I got my start on YouTube. That's where I initially started my video diary before I moved it elsewhere. And again, I always go back to that message that I get. Hey Q, I felt like I just binged your life like a Netflix show. And it tells a story, and I don't want to miss that because there's so much going on in my life, and I'm never going to be able to say that I'm building my first profitable company ever again. And I don't want to miss that. But in terms of YouTube, I plan on posting that every single day, but also niching down hardcore on LinkedIn growth, LinkedIn strategy, and then some branding stuff here and there. And I might branch out after that, but I'm just going to heavily focus on that because there's not a lot of people doing that on YouTube right now. There's a couple, but that's my plan there personally. And I do touch on different things in different platforms. So.
All right, I think this will be our last question from online. What do you see as the next big thing since video is becoming more mainstream?
Yeah, I don't consider myself a futurist, but I love the future. And I have a lot of futuristic friends, and I'm a futuristic person. I would say whoever masters 3D modeling, virtual reality, like mixed reality, that's who's going to win, because I'm so sick of a phone. I'm so tired of it. I think it's primitive, but I'm weird. I want to be able to and play right there. That's a future. So whoever masters that. I would look into Magic Leap, who's doing an amazing job. I think they have like $1 billion in funding. It's incredible. I know HoloLens 2 came out, but that, hands down, that's the next frontier, I would say, in terms of like creators. So if you can, like just so much is, I'm weird, but so much is gonna change, right? Like we go to the store and buy clothes. Imagine like, okay, I designed this outfit for you and I'm gonna sell it to you, but it's in like this virtual world, right? So there's just so much coming, but I would say that's the next wave, that's the next space.
All right, Q, thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.